Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Turn it over to Ariel or Sharon.
Karen, yes.
Thank you, Karen.
Good morning. This morning we have Ashka Patel with Fernleaf that's going to give us an update on our vulnerability assessment. We're proud to be at the spot we're at. So Ashka, take it away.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I hope as you traveled to the county offices, you had better weather in your way than the dreary scene outside my window. But as we sort of get into, I would say, more than halfway of this project in terms of the information that we've produced and work that we've done with the staff, I have a quick update of things that we've been doing since the last time we met. So in our last update to the RSAC committee, we had just met with the staff work group and had shared some preliminary results of the flooding assessment. We got a lot of important feedback since then. And then as we pick things back up this year, we've met with staff twice since then. And I have some updates, just a few slides and visuals of the discussions that we were having with the staff, we are having with the staff. And then we also, the other big update on this project is that we had our first focus group with the community members that we had identified last year. And so I have a little bit of an update on that as well. So for the vulnerability assessment, for our first workshop, we had focused on flooding results and preliminary results of the flooding vulnerability assessments, where we had, if you remember, about 8 scenarios of flooding conditions. And so, like I mentioned, wildfire and extreme heat were one of the key areas of focus when we came back from the end of the year break. And so for a wildfire assessment approach, it sort of rests on similar principles or concepts as do, I guess, all our vulnerability assessments, but it is a property-based assessment and uses some sort of similar concepts of how we conduct our flooding vulnerability assessments. But a key difference for the wildfire assessment is we draw more focus on emergency services and impact on emergency services through altered drive times from nearest fire stations. And one of the key products that we use for our wildfire assessment is the U.S. Forest Service's wildfire risk data set, which has a number of different products. And we are using the one that I'm showing here, which is called the Wildfire Risk to Homes. I would say this is not a completely new data set, but a relatively new effort by the Forest Service to nationalize some things that were otherwise only available for the Southeast. And so Wildfire Risk to Homes is takes into account a couple of different factors to give an overall picture of risk in terms of direct impact that homes could face in the wildland-urban interface. And this is just one of the input layers here. So then combining this with where fire stations are located, where homes and businesses are, we are able to then do a drive time analysis as well as an impact on property analysis. And I'm not sharing results of the analysis with you because this week we are updating it. I'd rather you have the newer version, and so I'll insert the drive time map before we send this PDF out to you in the next couple of days. I think we had a good discussion around here. My colleague was the one who facilitated that, and what I heard was in general, EMD is definitely aware of some of these Forest Service products, but what we heard from them was our analysis this year, the full exercise. I guess the scenario planning exercise, I don't know what the official term for it is, but this year the full exercise is on wildfire. And so what we heard was the results maybe are likely to be useful towards that exercised by the emergency management department and EMS services. For extreme heat, this is not a property-based assessment. This is sort of a neighborhood scale assessment. Think census block
Go
groups.
back, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Regarding fire,
Mhm.
does the county have any firefighting possibilities, or are they all local? I know we have the EMS, things like that, but
A couple of things at that point. We have regional governmental entities that are like public service districts. So we have fire districts. So James Island and Johns Island both have brush trucks that fight wildfires.
oh, okay.
I'm not sure St. Paul's has one. The Hohendahl Fire Department, I'm not sure if they've got one either, but
they do.
they may have.
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, Hohendahl is actually under the county rather than being under a public service district.
Oh, okay, thank you.
But the other thing that plays into this is we just did a resolution this year for prescribed burning as a means to remove fuel. And so the county adopted a resolution that we support prescribed burning in the South Carolina Forestry Commission is a big advocate of that. So one of the ways we can deal with this is that landowners that have forest management plans with the right weather conditions, you have to basically call in. There's a whole set of parameters that have to be met, and but basically you have to have adequate fire breaks and so forth. But to burn every few years, it removes all the fuel that builds up and accumulates in the forest floor, and is actually healthy for forest for a lot of seed germination and wildlife that depend upon that. And when the coastal plains, all the way to virtually Virginia, all the way to Texas, they were primarily longleaf pine forests. That was the dominant ecosystem. Obviously, that's changed now, but fires were common then. That was part of our landscape. And so that's one other, I guess, tool in the toolbox that said we don't wind up in a wildfire incident because of so much fuel that's accumulated.
Thank you. Well, I think that was some of that was new information for me. Which fire stations or districts have the capacity to fight wildfires? Actually, I got James Island. What was the other one?
St. John's. It's actually James Island Public Service District.
Yeah.
And then St. John's Fire Department.
Okay.
Fire District. And I'm not sure, but I think St. Paul's may have one as well, which is.
They do, yeah.
Yeah. So to kind of give you an idea, to make it easy for you to identify all this, St. John's is primarily Johns Island, Kiowa, Seabrook, and Wadmalaw.
Mm-hmm. So all of them.
James Island is just James Island Public Service District. And then the St. Paul's Fire Department, if you look at the map, it's everything southwest of Randall's Creek. So that would be Ravenel, Hollywood, Meggett, Adams Run, Parker's Ferry, Willtown, Edisto Island. All those fall under St. Paul's.
Okay.
And then Allendale takes care of pretty much everything. Well, I guess McClellanville is the Allendale district. No, I think McClellanville on their own.
Yeah.
So that would be the very northeastern portion of the county, right below the South Santee River, and on down to, I guess, everything before you run into the town of Mount Pleasant.
Mm-hmm. Thank
Oscar,
you.
I'll get you that. I can get you that list.
Yeah,
too.
yeah, and I don't have a good map to represent the districts, but yeah, I think it'll be important for us to mention that capacity just as we sort of write up some results. And then also, yeah, when you talked about sort of landowners and the aspect of managing some wildfire risk through forest management plans and things like that. Yeah, I think that's something that's not quite captured in the wildfire risk product, right? And the good thing in Charleston County is a lot of it is either national forest or what I'm hearing is landowners who are taking care of some at least risk to wildfire management. So I think that's also something that is sort of a mitigating thing that isn't quite captured in the data, but we certainly intend to capture it in the sort of description of how to interpret some of these results.
Well, two other things I'll add to you to help as far as your, I guess, fire suppression folks. The South Carolina Forestry Commission, they actually have firefighter teams that bring out bulldozers that create fire lanes And so they're well equipped to deal with this. And then I'm sure the U.S. Forest Service also has their own means because they do prescribed burning in the Francis Marion National Park.
Very, yeah.
And they're actually removing the coastal loblolly trees and reforesting with southern longleaf pine, which is a great thing.
Oh,
And South, I'm sorry, the Satellite Forest Commission is also reestablished southern longleaf forest as well.
fascinating. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and sort of in terms of things, I feel like all those factors and just the sort of type of landscape there is, I think wildfire risk in general is low, but to the extent that some of the information can help in those sort of oddball cases where you may see some wildfire. But yeah, I agree. I think because of the presence of national forests and stuff, it just seems like it's a more managed landscape. Yeah, a few things on extreme heat. This is not a property-based assessment, but rather for extreme heat assessment, we combine, sort of use data and create spatial assessments that take into account urban heat island effect, and then also the public health considerations around extreme heat. So even as the extreme heat is a growing risk, and just for the sake of time, I didn't include the data we have on projections, but both in numbers of very hot days that are going to increase as early as sort of mid-century, and a sharp increase. We also have, from a public health perspective, we emphasize this vulnerability because of also the strong trend in the southeast of higher nighttime temperatures. It just doesn't cool off at night, which really contributes significantly to heat-related illnesses and just adds more risk to folks who are otherwise sensitive to heat. So with that in mind, this is something we also intend to emphasize and discuss with the community focus group as well. But here's just one snapshot of what we've done for this project is for the urban areas, it's meaningful to look at the urban heat island. So we combine developed land cover, where a higher percentage of developed land cover is, with where a higher percentage of tree canopy is, and also where people with low incomes reside, to create the sort of underlying information that's in the map, where areas in dark brown are areas that have high vulnerability to extreme heat in terms of the impacts from urban heat island. And then as we sort of so our underlying assessment is taking into account income as an indicator of the ability to cope with heat, but it can mean so many things, affording higher energy bills when air conditioning needs to stay on for longer. For example, to affording medical care in case of heat-related illnesses, having reliable transportation to get to places, not having to wait at bus stops, and so on. So that's the underlying assessment. And then over that, heat impacts don't just vary, as we know, through because of environmental factors that lead to urban heat islands, but also just individual factors that can include physiological factors like age, pre-existing or chronic conditions like asthma or kidney, liver, lung diseases that exacerbate or that create higher sensitivities to extreme heat for those individuals. Certainly occupational exposure, farm workers, but also anyone working in the construction industry, for example, and this could include some staff who work for the county, and also living conditions, like whether you are living in older mobile homes that may not have good insulation, or public housing facilities, similarly with not upgraded energy and insulation sort of conditions. So with that in mind, this is just one shot of like the information that we are producing and discussing with staff. But here, for example, we've shown the locations of assisted living facilities and sort of retirement communities or senior living facilities, and then facilities that may be providing other kind of residential care to children and adolescents. And we're working on having a more robust location information for this, thanks to the GIS department, but illustrates one type of risk to sensitive individuals, that is the location of these facilities in high urban heat island areas in the neck here of the North Charleston and neck region of Charleston. That's one example. We discussed many other things, and this is where I really hope to gain a lot more sort of on the ground information around impacts and understanding from the focus group participants. But even as we consider urban heat island effects, doesn't mean that rural areas and people in rural areas are safe from heat, especially when we are talking about temperatures that are well over 100, 105 degrees in terms of heat index. Everywhere is hot, and everywhere people are going to be impacted. So for rural areas, what we emphasize then is, to the extent that information is available, just where sort of where sensitive individuals live, and what is their sort of education and availability of resources to deal with heat, particularly on very hot days. And as an illustration of that point, I hope the symbology is coming through, but in this map, you see some areas that are lighter colored, but they're covered in sort of yellow hatched lines, especially in the rural areas, but some also in the sort of northern parts of the county, as well as the neck area there. These are census block groups that have where greater than 40% of the households who are residing in those block groups have one or more individuals over the age of 65. So when we think about sort of older individuals, because of just the body's sort of reduced ability to thermoregulate, they are more at risk to heat impacts. And as a result, when we think about areas or places where, for example, educational campaigns or just outreach needs to happen, we need to look much far beyond the urban heat island. So just a few thoughts there, or a few considerations there with heat vulnerability assessments that we are working through. And this is all sort of not quite preliminary, but I would also not say sort of final assessment results. So we're still refining some details. In addition to wildfire and risk, some of the sort of, I feel like, most interesting conversations that we had in the last staff workshop were things where the staff had some ideas in terms of information that they'd like to see or dig deeper into, and we were able to respond during the first workshop, and we were able to respond to that. So this is, again, just a visual of some things that staff had asked for, and we sort of broke out into two groups and had a good solid hour and a half, 2 hour long discussion just with multiple different types of data and maps. And so first example here is something that the stormwater department wanted to see, which was breaking out the depth of flooding that properties would see based on their sort of when they were constructed. And so the adaptive capacity metric here that we have basically takes into account the built year of the properties, and then combines it with when ordinances have been updated over time, starting from when there were no maps, even floodplain maps in existence, to now the over 2 feet freeboard that the county has put in place. But in doing so, we also look at how they've changed for jurisdictions as well. So anyway, that's just sort of one example. We also discussed to shine a light or emphasize vulnerabilities, or combine the consideration of social vulnerabilities with physical vulnerabilities. We discussed where sort of assisted housing and public housing is located, and what the flood vulnerability is of those key housing resources. Planning department wanted to see and consider zoning alongside residential vulnerability, and this is just an exploratory map. More to be done there, and not a very meaningful thing, but just a visual of what we then brought back to the planning staff so they could help us again curate or tailor this information base that is useful. So that's just a quick snapshot of things that we have been discussing with the staff. One more thing is we were able to share access to Excel Adapt following the last workshop. And several staff members who don't have Esri or GIS software available are now able to access this geospatial information through this web-based tool. This is a tool just for staff, or that is what it's designed for. One other thing we spent time discussing during the last workshop was Fernleaf's experiences with other communities, how other communities have used this tool, in particular after sort of we've left the scene, so after the assessment projects or planning projects are done. And really, there are sort of a wide range of applications. There are some common themes, like we've just seen with the funding coming out, we're just seeing a lot of the communities we've worked with using information that's in this tool to make case for projects, so for grant writing. And then that's a very common use. Compared to that, some communities have taken the tool in different directions. Like for one community, we've added a lot more information, and for several years, they've been using the tool now with added CIP information for interdepartmental coordination around CIP. So how climate resilience considerations could be factored in CIP projects in that case. So I thought we had a good discussion based on what we had shared with staff, and we were excited to just hear feedback from the staff about the sort of potential usefulness of this tool, but more to come there. Just over the next month or two, we need to synthesize key vulnerabilities with the staff in early March. So we are in on a good timeline for that. And then begin identifying preliminary strategies later in March, when we will have a staff workshop, our first one, for the strategies. And sort of looking at time here, I'll stop there in terms of the vulnerability assessment update, and a couple of things from our focus group work. We were very excited to have a good list of community leaders and CBO staff that were able to make time to work with us over the course of 4 focus group workshops. So these are in-person, 2.5, 3-hour-long meetings where we really sort of dive into details with these participants individually as well as a group. So with the outreach and leads that we had going into fall of last year, we now have community leaders from a Red Top historic settlement community, someone from Edisto Island, and someone from Wadmala Island. And then we have 2 CBO community-based organization staff. The Low Country Alliance for Model Communities. It's a long history of working in North Charleston, as you all may well know. And then a staff from the Center for Heirs Property Preservation. And this map is then just showing the areas that are represented by these focus group participants. I think almost everything is sort of labeled here, but those lighter purple areas, they're just identifying settlement communities, and we're still working through the data set that we received from the county, understanding and making sure we're mapping the right things using that data set. So that's why I'm calling it a preliminary settlement communities identification there, or location there. But the reason that they are located is not because we have individuals from each of those communities today for this focus group, but it's because of what we heard from the Center for Heirs Property Preservation staff as we were talking about areas they work in, to just get at some elements of where in the county we should focus the discussions with them. What we heard was that just the general location of historic settlement communities is a good proxy for where the heirs properties are. And so when we now discuss the assessment findings, for example, where residential properties or homes are vulnerable, we will be using those areas as a sort of way to hone in on what are likely going to be high concentrations of heirs properties. For our first focus group, just a few weeks ago, it was certainly a sort of meet and greet, was part of the objective, but then we were able to hear quite a bit.
That a little bit.
Ashton, can you enlarge that slide? So they can
Um,
see the,
Yeah,
and
um,
some, yeah, the
I
next slide.
think that let's see, I may have to get out of the presentation mode here.
I can share it. That's okay. That's okay. I'll share this with them. It's just, it was hard to see the next slide, what the table was.
Oh,
the
the
community
next slide.
face.
Oh, I see,
Yes,
I see.
that one.
This one. Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I think a table again was sort of more of a visual, but I can read off a few things from it. And this was just a sort of a screen capture of our notes, which are extensive from our first focus group. But so what the table captures, one of the conversations after we sort of just started our check-in with letting the participants tell us what community means to them and what they think of, and they hear resilience. We certainly mean different things, or we ascribe certain meanings to the word resilience, making sure that we are also using in the ways that the participants think of resilience. But then a key part of the sort of discussion, we spent a lot of time individually with each of the participants understanding assets that are important to their community. And this would include places that are of importance, privately owned assets, certainly, but also intangible assets. And that's what the screenshot is showing. So in terms of sort of places and sort of more tangible assets that can be, say, for example, represented on a map, in some areas, schools were identified as important to the community, certainly across multiple communities, recreational spaces, and smaller parks, which would have, for example, community-based beds, were identified as important. Churches, we know that, but it was just really informative to hear for different participants how the sort of landscape of churches as well as church leadership operated, and what that meant for the community, both in sort of sunny day settings as well as in emergency situations, something that we plan to dig into more. For North Charleston, with a lot of food insecurity, some of the tangible assets that they identified were fresh future farms, so some food banks and mobile farmers market and food deliveries to some families that they have been able to organize to address some of the food insecurity issues there. Intangible assets were really interesting. I think we heard again the mention of, it's not just about churches as places of gathering, but also what church leadership, how church leadership operates, and how much they are involved in resourcing and educating the community, and then hence be able to bring the community back together when needed. I think generational local knowledge, strong local culture, just such a strong sense of place. I mean, I think that we all would guess that, and you all may have that too, but it was good to hear sort of the nuances within that. North Charleston community, for example, also said that even as the community faces, or the neighborhoods in North Charleston that LAMC works with faces so many issues that compound with each other, they identify themselves as sort of an entrepreneurial community. They have had now for decades of practice of advocating for themselves, and that was identified as sort of like an intangible community asset. And really the reason for asking this question was not just to sort of like have a listening session and tell us about your communities, but we are able to do something with this information as we meet with the focus group later this week on Friday. What we've done over the last few weeks is taken the information we got about places and assets they've identified and basically looked to our quantitative vulnerability assessments and see where we have some information to share about what the data is showing about their vulnerabilities. The idea is that even as we sort of bring that information, community members would be the ones to help us really evaluate and dig into sort of what that really means for the communities. And we're also ready to perhaps hear of some information gaps that exist, and where we have been able to, as well as where we've been able to essentially not back up, but just add to the stressors that the community have identified. So we sort of trust the lived experience of the community. It's also nice to then have complementary data that, for example, the county can use that shows a second view of those lived experiences. We also imagine that we'll be spending a lot of time on flooding information and just concepts related to the assessment, even as, especially since we are working with new flooding data sets in this project. So we're looking at not just sort of FEMA developed floodplains, but also products from USGS and other data sources. So we want to spend just some time introducing that information as well. And just looking at the time here, I'm going to pause there. But I know I wasn't able to zoom into this slide, so I'll maybe leave this on and see if I can share a little more about what's captured in this table.
Have any other questions for Ashka? Ashka, they're good at this point, but we'll be sharing the PowerPoint. So if they have any questions from that, I'll let you know.
Okay, sounds good, Karen. Any other questions in general?
No, everyone's good.
All right. Well, I know there is a lot more discussion coming in this meeting, so I won't take up any more time here. I've stopped sharing my screen, so I think you're good to go on your end, Ariel.
I'll add one thing. We talked about this once before, but are we correct in assuming that you're also working with other regional organizations or communities who are also looking at the same things you're looking at? Like the city of Charleston, Berkeley County, I don't know if Berkeley County is doing anything. I don't think so.
Well, no, because this is just Charleston County based. We have asked the city some questions because they have already gone through this vulnerability assessment with Fernleaf. So yes, we have asked the city back and forth.
So
yes, yes, it is coordinated. Thank you, Ashka.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, everyone.
All right. That was a good question.
What?
That was a good question, but yes, we are.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're gonna move on to, we're just gonna discuss, I'm not sure why Yule's on there twice, if two different people or not, but I guess we'll find out. Hi, so a lot of you gave comments onto the draft climate action plan, so SSG is just gonna talk about how they incorporated your comments. So we do have a design version that Joe has in front of him that we are going to be presenting to council next week. And so we're just going to go over how we incorporated your comments. So just so you know, so your comments were incorporated as well as our other internal working group, which is made up of staff and other representatives from other municipalities. So Erica, are you starting off?
Sure. Hi, everybody. So glad to be at the stage. Can you hold up that document so that it feels real? You have it in front of you?
Yeah.
That only lived in the old
That's
computer until really recently.
And somehow I know it was like
Exciting.
a little bit over 100 pages. I think mainly thanks to Kyle, it got way longer.
What comments did you get rid of stuff? Or
Some-
move it to appendices?
So now, but I think what is it? It's now like 50, what are we at? 53 actions. But we're gonna focus for public comment on the actions and not obviously the technical part of the document. So I'll let you guys talk.
Sure. Well, today is a pretty open-ended meeting. I think at this point it's like a moment to talk about all the things that we want to make sure are resolved. Yule's gonna go through an explanation of some of the comments we got and how they were addressed, and then we'll just have an opportunity to talk about some of the big things that came up. And you can continue to live in mystery about who's behind the other door. Just kidding. It's one of our team, but and they're taking notes today, but I think they must have had Yule's link.
Okay.
Ah, that's why. I was wondering.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't even realize that. I'm so sorry, guys. My name's Aisha.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she was a modeler, or sorry, an analyst on the project. So yeah. So do you just want to take over, Yule? And
Sure.
yeah, we'll do some conversation after you give us the goods here.
Can you zoom in on that?
Yeah. Please tell me if anything is small or.
Is that good or further more?
I'm not going to go through this in detail. I just wanted to show what we've done anyway, or not going to go through all the comments in detail. But I did want to highlight that, well, first, I think we should note that you all provided a very large number of comments, and they ranged from very detailed corrections to thoughtful concepts for restructuring the entire document, to insights on governance, to insights on initiatives underway within the county and even beyond. So I think we seldom get this many comments, and I think it's quite a testament to the knowledge of you all. And I think the document is significantly strengthened as a result of all of your comments and feedback. And we have been very careful to incorporate and address each comment. I think there was a very small number that we didn't specifically revise the document for because of relevance or some other reason, but we track all of the comments that we received in this document that you see on the screen here. And then we work through each one, how we've addressed it, when it's completed, and so on. So I think you'll see, I think in the new version, a lot of your thoughts and insight reflected within the document. I'm going to just pull up the actual document itself. As Ariel indicated, it has become longer, but now it's actually beautiful. So hopefully the beauty will compensate for length.
It is designed now.
Yeah. So it's actually, I think it's a pretty impressive climate action plan. I think we're really proud of it. And it includes, I think, compared to our prior projects, of which we've done, I don't know, well over 100 of these endeavors, it really includes a strong thread on equity, which is unique. We haven't put so much emphasis on equity as of yet. Certainly more and more communities are concerned about equity, but we did a lot of analysis on equity that is pretty unique to this project. I think 53 actions, as Ariel mentioned, is a lot. Normally we would try and narrow that down to, I don't know, less than 20 or 30. So that's one piece that is significant for the county to manage, and Ariel will require a lot of help, I think.
Ask a question?
Yeah, for sure.
Was there any like distinct language changes? Just like, I don't want to use the phrase dumbing it down, but like an executive summary. Was there any reimagined language to make sure that everybody could understand the gist of what this document was accomplishing, like the general public?
So I think there's a few things going on. One is the major barrier for this document is really its length. And so, and we got that comment from numerous different people, and we certainly were aware of that issue ourselves. So to address that particular comment, we've prepared an executive summary, which you'll see here, which is 9 pages long. It's the same as the executive summary in the report, but it's a standalone document. And it's meant to be much more accessible. Whether we succeeded in addressing the language question that I think you're bringing up is a question, and hopefully maybe you can provide some more feedback on that once you've had a chance to review this. But it is fundamentally a fairly technical analysis, so there is a bridge there.
I would, just personally, I would say that even the executive summary is still quite technical. Like, I personally don't think it's dumbed down. Like, when I read it, I still don't think it's still quite technical. However, I do think that it's going to be like part of my job to bridge that gap. And I do think that the general public, like, so one thing that we're planning to do for the public and for council is to do kind of a frequently asked questions, like, why are we doing this climate action plan? Why is it important? And I'm not trying to imply that council does not understand, but like general public and council needs to understand why. And I do think what the general public is gonna care about most are like, what are the actions in the plan? And they're not gonna, like, the general public is not really gonna understand the low carbon action pathway. Like, that's just not gonna really compute that part necessarily, and the 2050 pathway. So they're gonna say, what are your actions and why are you doing this? So there's gonna be a lot of information on the website about that. It's not there yet since we haven't briefed council. But I've been thinking a lot about that piece because I do agree this is challenging. I mean, like, science communication is always really challenging because you don't want people to read it and just be like, what are you talking about?
Right.
So,
and then you don't want to feel not personal to it, and then just be like, no, because if they don't feel a personal connection to it, their default is like, oh, is this gonna raise my taxes? Then no.
oh yeah, for sure.
Damages the whole thing.
And like, and costs and savings is a big part of this document, and that's something that we're gonna be emphasizing as part of like the FAQs. And that's something that we're gonna be providing to council, and that's something that we plan to provide on the website as to like, how much is this gonna be like costing the public, those kinds of questions, so.
And I want to make sure we tie it to the strategic plan and the council directive. That is the thing that got us here. That's a big part.
But I do think, I have written about this before, like why, like I have written about it in, I guess, like plainer language as to why we're doing this. And yeah, like less technical language than this outlines. So yeah, we do have this working document that that we're gonna be providing to council. Obviously, we haven't answered these questions that we've been playing with. So if you have any thoughts about questions that the council would want to have answered on the climate action plan.
Well, I will say that will come to light when y'all do the briefings, and you'll get a lot of feedback and then questions. So hopefully get everyone on council sitting on y'all.
So do you think it would be better to wait up? Because we were gonna give this FAQ document before the.
It should be dynamic.
Okay,
Yeah,
we were thinking.
adding to it. Yeah.
Before, like, pre the next briefing.
Well, I think this is great, and so hopefully everybody on council will at least go through it, make notes, mark it up, and then when they sit down and have the opportunity to do that, before they sit down with y'all, so they'll have some questions and then have some meaningful dialogue back and forth with you guys. I know in our last county council meeting there was concerns about the energy element, and that so that came to the forefront, and so I think it is voluminous as this document is.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's gonna take a minute to get through it all, and, so that's what I'm getting back to. I think your most productive time is gonna be letting council members have a chance to digest this, mark it up, and then when they sit with you, they may even start the ball off by coming to you with questions and concerns, and, you know, we can go through that. I will say it is exhaustive.
Oh, yeah,
And,
absolutely.
and
Exhausting or
That's what I'm
exhaustive?
I would hazard to guess that some on council are probably going to want something more distilled in the end, but I won't speak for them. And I like the thing, I think that they really want, you know, as much, even the executive summary, 9 pages. I think getting down to some bullet points that kind of really takes all of this and puts it on 1 page. Just as a reference, you know, because this thing goes into so many things, and I know that a lot on council are resistant or concerned of anything that they perceive to be a mandate.
Yeah.
So that I'm just giving you my feel of talking with them. You know, and again, you know, a lot of us on council are older. That's not a bad thing, but generally older folks are more resistant to change or drastic change. And so they like it in, you know, spoonfuls or little by little. And so I don't know how the reception will be until everyone has a chance to read it. Like I said, I'm looking forward to going through this. And but I do know that we've got those on council that are pretty thorough, so they will go through it and they will tab it. And then when y'all sit down, they will, you know, be able to have that opportunity to address with you guys what they will have concerns about or what they have questions about. So I think this is a good process. It may take a little longer than what y'all anticipate as far as, you know, because, you know, just on, in my experience, just on other things we've had, not nearly as involved.
Yeah.
And those things with other commissions, committees, and situations have taken longer to evolve to a final rendition. So this is like I said, this is a very technical document. And so, you know, if you're not a scientist, some of this is going to take a minute. So
Yeah.
I was gonna say, hope that I was on a future plan when I worked here, and then shrink it down very high level for council.
exactly. And that would be the other part of this is, you know, the public part. You know, again, you know, we can all embrace the need and necessity to address climate change and resilience. But if you're a lay person out there in Charleston County and you get this, you're going to be like, what is all this? So that's why I'm going back to something that takes all this. And I'm not using the expression dumb it down, but make it simpler and more easy to digest and understand. So I know it's a tall task to take all of that, but if we could take key points of what we're trying to do and make it 1 page, whatever that looks like. And then that can go with the executive summary. I'm not saying lose any of this.
Yeah.
But it's that one more step of reduction that somebody go, okay, this is the 10,000-foot view of what is all. And if they're interested, then they can go to the next step and go to the summary and then go in the tabs and appendices or how you do it. But I think it makes it more of a manageable document where those that really are into it, they can get in the minutia, and those that are going to look at it and move on to the next thing, they can still have a good understanding of what the big picture.
I'm in agreement with you. I think a lot of people are, but I think if you started with a statement, almost saying regardless of why you think it's occurring, we're getting more storms, we're getting more heat, we're getting
Right.
we need to address that. And one of the things that we've done is we've done a greenhouse gas emission survey, see pages so and so and so and so. And from that, we have developed 53 action plans that we would like everyone to consider. Now, when I look, if I remember looking at those action plans, I don't think any of them is a mandate. I think every single,
And that's what I was
and
gonna
that's
say.
important. It's really important. Every one of those will require, for example,
They're not required.
all new municipal buildings are net zero. That is going to require something for the county
And that
to
is it.
do
That's like the,
down the road.
that's at
in
the end
order
of
to
the
affect
binder.
that.
And it would have to be about.
And that's what,
I'm sorry,
Well,
but
that's
that's
the-
important for them to understand that for briefing, none of these are mandates.
But-
Go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
was gonna say, well, can I add to your point, like on 4,
Of course.
incorporate low carbon considerations into planning approvals? Somebody who's a builder might see that and go, oh my God, you're trying to slow down my processes. So I get your point, but we're gonna explain them again.
Right.
It's in the messaging and,
Of course.
and after the meeting we had just the other day, there was immediate concern about the language and the energy element of our comp plan. It's been in there. Nothing's really changed. But when it came back, the council like, oh, what does this mean? And so there were several that expressed concern. And in my way, I was trying to soften, same message, but soften the tone of the language to where, I'd love to have a 9-0 vote on everything we do, show consensus where we can. And so I know that there are those in council that the devil's always in the details, and they will look at this. And so, again, this is all a recommendation. It is a goal. It is an aspiration. And as long as it's in that vein, that's great because we can work towards those ideals and build it along and along. There's just like I said, it's an older council, and they're not quick to change, but they're not against change. It's just I know there's a lot of concerns, a lot of this that we don't want to be the first one to buy that model of your car, and go through
Yeah,
that.
and one of the things that Ariel clearly stated is putting the city of Charleston aside for a minute. Right now, the state, through the Office of Resilience
Right.
and DHEC, I think it's next week, because some of us have sat on those Zoom meetings, they are submitting to EPA the preliminary climate action plan
And we're planning to do that.
for the entire state of South Carolina.
We're planning to talk about the state, about
Yeah.
Columbia, doing the climate
And
action
to that
plans.
point, one of the things I want to make sure we don't miss the opportunities on as we make this move is that we want to position ourselves ahead of everyone as much as possible to be first in line to receive federal
Those
grants,
funds, right.
federal assistance,
Exactly.
to implement a lot of this.
That's an important point.
And so everything we can do to build
Very
that
good.
foundation to show that we're open to it and we want to work towards that, I think it's a great thing. And that's, God knows we got folks on council, they love a grant. So,
Yes, they
I
do.
certainly don't want to do anything to obstruct our ability to be considered for one.
Yeah, and that's part of our FAQs talking about who else is doing climate action plans in the state, in the southeast, which we've presented, I think before you're on council, we presented some of that information, but yeah, this is the peacock for the state, so.
I'll say to you guys, one of my emphasis and one of the reasons I wanted to be on this body is, all of this is important. It all goes hand in hand with what I'm getting ready to say. I've always sought to try to look at how we prevent problems before they happen. Don't build in flood-prone areas. Our base flood elevation. I love the fact that the city of Charleston is getting out there and working very hard. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. If it works, we can adopt it and implement it. And so it's hand in hand. I want to do things to stop creating problems, but at the same time improve as well. So.
Okay. Yul, do you just want to quickly, and we got, just go over how you incorporated some other changes and then.
Yeah, I think at a high level, we did restructure the document to reflect some of the comments. So you'll see the order, the actual order, if I go to the table of contents. Oh, where is it? Is revised to be, I think, much clearer now, which was a really great comment. We actually had an error or not an error, we had an incorrect assumption around the IRA financial contribution because IRA is actually has a 10-year window and we were continuing it on until 2050. So we made that change as well, which reduced the IRA contribution from, I think, around $2 billion to $1.2 billion to Charleston County. And that is just really contributions for households and businesses. That's not including municipal grants or grants to, or tax incentives to businesses. So there's more money than 1.2 billion that is available. From
You show us figure 3, how you illustrated that?
figure 3, oh yeah, right here. So this shows the incremental investment that's required to decarbonize Charleston County. So incremental being the additional investment. So it's like buying an EV instead of buying a gas car, or putting in a heat pump for air conditioning and heating rather than an air conditioner and a natural gas furnace. So that's what all of these numbers represent. And then the orange is the share that IRA can contribute to that, which is a lot of money. It's almost reaches $200 million per year. But what it really does is mean that the payback in all these actions is really good. That's how it really changes the equation, because it takes enough off that the payback over the lifetime of the investments becomes really compelling. Well, I think that's the big story with IRA. But the other side of IRA is that the only way to really get that money flowing is to make sure people are aware of it and make sure people are using it. And that's, I think, a key role for the county to actually mobilize those funds. So I think that's the main comment I wanted to highlight, or main comments I wanted to highlight, Ariel, but there is all of the details around the changes that we've made, and some of the actions have been revised. I think there was a lot of really good comments on making the actions more precise and addressing the wording considerations that you were all just talking about right now. So we put a fair amount of care into how we've described the actions. We may not have got it perfect yet, but I think it's close. So I'm sure there'll be some more revisions, but I think the actions are more precise, and we have had some sort of additional conversations to make sure that the actions align with particular sectors, hopes and aspirations. Oh, Aisha, did you want to add something as well around some of the revisions?
I just wanted to add that there were a lot of information from RSAC and CCAT about what is already happening in the county, and we've added that into the narrative. Like right for the actions, we talk about what's already happening at state level, at county level, what are the different programs that are already within the community, and we try to leverage as much as that as possible.
Yeah, so if I go actually down, there's a number of different levels of summarizing the actions. There's this level, which is sort of the highest level, which is the big moves with key themes. And then there's the more detailed one, which I showed you earlier with the total 57. So we have different ways to access the information. There's sort of this diagram, which shows the wedges and the relative impacts of the big moves. And then with another level of detail, you can see how it breaks down even further. So all of these can be turned into communications assets down the road. But I wanted to show you what Aisha was talking about in terms of the additional details on the actions. So here is an example here. So we've broken out the actions with more detail in the action, potential partners, timing, and funding opportunities. So you'll see a lot more insight on how those actions can play out within the county than the Google Doc version that you saw previously.
We took out specific cost numbers.
Yeah, I was asking that. Didn't see the number.
Yeah, I think that's probably for the rest. Take out specific costs.
Yeah, the costs were not directly related to the action, they were related to the overall effort. So it was a bit.
Yeah, the city did that. You probably remember the city did that, and I think it's a better. I mean, because it's it's a little hard to predict like exactly.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Is anyone from our staff, I guess, done any research or I guess liaisoning with the Office of Resiliency to know whether any of those federal funds that they banked up there at the state level would be distributed to counties for any efforts to implement resiliency, or is it strictly, are they going to be off the spending themselves?
They don't do that.
No,
I don't know that.
you're not
No.
sure, and it depends
I
upon,
asked about that.
yeah.
I'm just.
Yeah.
There's a good possibility that they will not have the means to be able to do everything that's in that preliminary climate action plan. And again, there are additional possibilities for local municipalities to put in for funding, correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you just put in, you know, right for the regional, did you put that in?
The CPRG
Yeah.
funding, we haven't submitted an application.
But you will be, right?
Do we have any idea what the timeline is for them to put out the statewide plan?
April 1st.
April 1st.
Well, so the comprehensive, or the priority climate action plan was due.
March first, yeah.
Soon.
Oh,
Yeah, it's due soon, so
Yeah.
it's
Friday.
basically done.
It's Friday.
There'll be a grant application that comes after that, that's due April 1st, and then there'll be a comprehensive climate action plan that comes after it, so there's.
Is there wisdom on us to delay our implementation until after that plan comes out so we can compare what they've created to what we're creating to see if there's any?
Joe, I would say,
Much
yeah.
more comprehensive.
I would say absolutely not, because if there's a grant opportunity that becomes available.
Yeah, we have to have a
already got-
plan.
We already got the evidence to show that
No, no,
we're
no,
committed.
yeah.
That's why I think the faster.
Well, then I
we
guess
get
that-
Yeah,
this
we
done,
have to
the
have
better.
a plan in place
Yeah.
Yes.
to get the grant. I mean, so that's, yeah.
And they came down to speak with us about a year ago.
They did about a year ago, and then it kind of dried up a little, and then so I have to keep kind of pinging them on the resilient side to get some information. So I plan on making a trip to Columbia to sit down with them and to incorporate some of the counties around here. Some they have, and some they haven't. Some they haven't followed up on. But we're working on that piece of it, on the resilient side.
We have a point of contact there.
Yes, Ben.
And we did get grant money to do the resilience, report.
That's to the state, yes.
So just I want to kind of circle back to like what you were saying about the plainer language, one pager. Are you suggesting that goes to council before the 3-7 briefing?
No, I think, I mean, I know this is a working problem. I'm not trying to push y'all.
No, I'm just asking, yeah, I'm just
I was
asking.
just- You know, and I'm not trying to, keep distilling this down, but I just know most folks, one page, that's what they're gonna read and look at, because their attention span's that long, or maybe their interest is only that long. And so I don't want all this lost, but they look at it and go, I'm not even gonna open this.
Yeah,
And so I don't want all this work to go to waste. And so my point is, it might even be, if they read this, they might be inspired to, dig a little
yeah,
deeper.
and it doesn't have to be all inclusive of everything, and then we'll work on that.
It was a 10,000-foot view of what this is.
Yeah.
In on one page that somebody can read that and go, okay, I get it. And then they know where to go in here and find the rest of it, but
Okay,
not everybody's, into.
No,
climate science, and so I just don't want to lose some folks that are going.
We know that somewhere.
Yeah,
So.
but would it help if the blue sheet was prepared with some bullet
Well,
points? Or
We
just-
can work through that.
Yeah,
yeah, I'm just trying to think about timing.
yeah.
You might need to go 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, no, I agree. We can use it for multiple venues. Okay.
Well, we got it. You get my 10,
No,
I'm
I'm
just-
I
Yeah,
think
but
we all
I think
agree.
it's today, I mean-
Because I know some folks.
It outlines the high points of what this comprehensive document is going over, not everything, but somebody go, these are, it's a, trust me,
Okay.
I think.
Yeah,
And
okay,
it can be made a part of this, not replacing anything, just.
yeah, no, I got you. Is there anything else you guys, SSG wants to say?
Well, I guess one other note related as well is that there is another month of, I think it's a month, right? Ariel, of comments period for the public that is another window for another set of very limited set of revisions.
Yeah, so, right, so, I think I said this already, but just to reemphasize, yeah, so we have the briefing on March 7th, which is a committee meeting, so it's not county council, so there won't be public comment at that one. You're welcome to come if you would like, but, it's March 7th. And then tentatively, we're looking at sometime in April to do an approval meeting. I can send out more information once we have a final date on that. Welcome you to come share your thoughts if you would like to on that, because that will be a council meeting, since you're part of, the committee. And that will hopefully be it for the approval process. And this is SSG's last. What?
The final document?
It is not yet because it hasn't been council briefed, so I haven't fully released it. But I can email it to you. Well, I can't email it to you because the file will not email because it's so large.
Right.
But
The modeling, write-up.
it's one of the appendix, so I'll send it to you. But yeah, this is SSG's last meeting, so their contract ends with the climate action plan. So I think our next meeting will probably focus on prioritizing which actions, assuming the climate action plan is approved, we're going to focus on for the remainder of 2024. So I'll have you all help me figure that out. The 53 actions, the schedule is that, so just so I don't know if everyone was clear when they read this, the 53 actions, it's over 5 years, not until 2050. So yes. Yes, I know.
Some of those are not the county's responsibility, though.
Right, some of them are not the county. It's also wink wink to all, I'll need help, meaning other people hired. I'm just kidding, but or not. We're not.
Not a joke.
Ultimately say, hey, here's my priority.
Yeah, I mean, so this isn't, so I mean, this would obviously in order to fully implement this, it's a lot of work.
This is a minor thing.
Yeah.
If y'all could, you might want to tab where the content start. In other words, you've got the executive summary, but then the executive summary is part after the contents as well. So I'd assume you might just for members. Yeah, because I mean, there's just kind of how this is coming up. It's like one more tab here, so you can go straight to the content. It's all of this is in front of it, which is actually behind it too.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying. I know y'all set the executive summary out, but it's also behind the contents as well. Does that make sense? You got it in here twice.
Well, we pulled the executive summary out, and then it's also part of the climate action plan.
Same exact.
Looks like it, yes.
Well, yeah, but
I mean, I was just saying, just for the folks that are going to grab this thing, they can go straight to the contents and go, because part of this stuff is included in the action material.
okay.
So, I mean, I figured that's not a big deal, but I was just saying for simplicity's sake.
Yeah, sure, we can fix that.
What about having it just once at the beginning? Usually executive summaries are.
And that's the way it's set.
I just-
right now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This starts off with acknowledgements, explain within executive.
I just pulled it out because it was
But they put it in front.
I mean, we can pull it out. I just pulled it out to be in front because I thought it would be easier for people to see.
Yeah.
Or if you not, just tab it there, so that's where it starts.
Okay. Yeah, so that's our tentative schedule. Any questions on anything? Well,
Can we raise another topic? Just,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot. Are we doing anything like the other municipalities are doing with the thicker single-use plastic bags as a county?
That's in review by our environmental management, and we had discussed that in a meeting, leadership team a couple weeks back. Okay, but it's still in discussion. Nothing's coming out yet. I know we drafted some language.
And we've actually seen no real objection from any of the major stores that the city is talking to regarding going and extending that ban
Can somebody explain to me why we got away from paper bags? I mean.
Well, no,
they're
we actually
renewable,
want to go back.
biodegradable.
Go back, paper bags are fine.
That's kind of my whole point. How could we ever go from something that was environmentally friendly, recyclable, renewable?
Well, it was because it was easier for stores
Yeah.
and
I think
major
it was
companies like
cheaper.
Walmart.
I think they're
and
just, yeah, it's
cheaper.
just cheaper.
Actually, that's what it is, cheaper.
Yeah.
I'm no fan of a plastic bag.
I know.
Right now, at all.
And you know, one of the things we found, again, because we did this.
If you guys need to
to
sign out, feel free. I know we're going into our big plastic bag.
This is a fun conversation. The merits of plastic bags. We haven't had them here for a long time, and I still got a few squirreled away for special occasions. You know, some special places I'll get them. Anyway, it was nice to meet you all. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We had structured some
Bye.
language and we.
Okay.
I'll leave it still recording since we're still meeting.
Yeah, I'll chitter chat.
Shortly, because it's in there, or no, I absolutely understand that.
Educational push too, because I think one of the climate masters the city had, I think it's good to get out.
I would like Mount
Oh,
Wait, which one, the bags?
No, I'm sorry. Back
Yeah.
back to the line.
Okay, well, do you wanna, should we end the meeting?
Okay, ask a question. It's a very good question.
No, I'm just saying, are we gonna do a big educational push on this once it's all approved, just so that we get the community members?
For the climate action
Yeah.
plan?
The
Oh,
city
yeah.
had, like, climate ambassadors, they went around different.
Yeah, I don't know if-
organizations.
I don't know if we'll do the climate ambassadors, but yeah, we'll do an educational
Oh, yeah.
push. Yeah,
It's important because we have to have the citizens on board as well as
Yeah.
the county government.
And that's part of
Yeah.
council's original directive that we're to go out and educate and do all those stuff.
And,
Yeah.
and those presentations that we created were about 20 minutes, in actual presentation, and then questions and answers. And having probably made more than anyone else.
Yeah, you did a lot.
But anyway, one of the most important questions I got over and over again, regardless of the community that I was doing it in. So what can we do to do this to save money? And we had an answer right there, you know, like.
well, and I think if you read the actions that we have, 90% of them are community driven actions.
Right,
They're not
right.
really government. We have a few government actions, but most of them are community actions. So we do need the community support. And I'm excited about them because I think that they'll really benefit the community. I mean, the buildings ones and
Definitely.
I think,
I think interesting data point, if somebody can get it, I'm curious to know, is what percentage of motor vehicles, passenger vehicles, not heavy trucks and things like that. I wonder what percentage of motor vehicles, passenger vehicles are electric of our total number that are on the road.
Well,
right now.
that's right there.
And then the follow-up question is it increasing the percentage of electric vehicles gradually year to year as they come?
yeah.
It's not a
Yeah.
lot in South Carolina.
Well, I wouldn't expect a lot, but I was just curious, is that number moving up?
Oh, it is.
However slow or fast?
They have
Yeah.
these.
Okay.
I'll mix that data nationally.
I'd just be curious on that.
Do they combine hybrid with electric?
They'll separate it out. Yeah. So you can.
Well, that
I'd
data.
like to see that. the
It's
trend.
probably more in Charleston than other,
Than Berkeley, Georgia.
Yeah.
well, I was gonna say than other areas in South Carolina, but yes.
I can show you actually.
Oh, you got,
You have it?
the AFTC data?
Yeah, I do have that data. For spring 2023, vehicle miles traveled by electric vehicles by zone in
Okay, so they zone the state.
You can get it by. county. You can get it by
just
county.
Charleston County. I'll show
Okay.
you here. It's quite interesting. It's increasing rapidly across the US. The total share of electric vehicle sales was 9% last month. So that's up from like 5% 2 months before that. So it is really changing quickly. That's the whole country, but
Because of the advent of the electric pickup truck.
Oh, yeah. Actually, that's not doing too well.
Right, yeah, they've had some
I'm
issues.
talking about like the Rivians as well.
Oh, the Rivians,
Yeah.
yeah.
Not the Ford F-150, whatever it was, they were having.
Didn't the Rivian,
What?
didn't the Rivian have some issue?
I'm sure all of them have growing pains. I wouldn't poke at, but I was just been in the South The advent of electric pickup truck probably went along, right there with electric chainsaw.
The electric weed eater also.
But the recent uptick has been a shift in that EV tax credit.
I know I don't mind pulling on the cord anymore than I have to.
Right.
I use my electric chainsaw.
What's the colors?
Oh, they break it down.
So this is so there's 1,500 electric vehicles that made trips on Thursday in 2023 on a Thursday. So there's more electric vehicles than that. This is a snapshot for one Thursday in the spring of 2023. And the colors, yellow is the highest number of trips, and the darker colors are less trips. So you can,
Right in the middle. How about
yeah, so I mean, like
that's a good feeling, though.
you can see, I mean, there's, I don't know, 1,000 EV trips in this particular zone right here.
How are they gathering that data?
That's what I was gonna ask. How do you
How are
get
they-
that?
Is it
Yeah, that's a
because
good
the,
question.
is
I
it
mean,
because the car is, you know, it's on Wi-Fi all the
Yeah,
time? and
it is probe data based off either your smartphone or your car being a connected
Yeah,
device.
exactly. That's exactly where this comes from.
Right.
Yeah, and so I will be able to get additional dates. They're going to release the next 2024 spring, I think in a month or so. So we'll see how it changes, but I would expect it's increasing rapidly. That's what we're seeing in every other jurisdiction.
But like you said, it's just what
So the
what
predictions that
rebate.
they've done, which is
It's a big,
like
It's
in
kicking it,
Europe and even
kicking
in the
it
States,
back.
and it's been a
5%
recent change to
threshold.
make it.
Once you reach 5%, it starts to go like that.
Really?
And not every state's included, but if you look at other states, they're going like that, really.
Well, I see it going a lot of ways, you know, economically, you know, you get a lower demand on gas and, you know, and so that those prices will come down or the demand won't be so high as everything transitions. So,
But they just won't make so many barrels and they'll keep the price high.
there you go.
That's usually the game they play, is that they'll decrease production. So, yeah, which is fine in the long run, really, because you're extending that non-renewable fuel into the future.
For me, I think the biggest thing right now is the capacity of the batteries, vehicles, and then the next thing is the cost of replacement of those batteries. That's the biggest thing I hear mostly out in public.
I've heard it's,
You know, throw the car away, can't afford the battery.
Yeah.
Put back in it. So
it's like
as
$10,000.
technology advances, where those batteries are more affordable, and go further, that's where I think you'll see a greater buy-in in the.
My battery's warranty for 120,000 miles. So,
Wow, really?
oh yeah, rest of parts of the car now. Think of the car being 120,000 miles, you might be looking.
Well, I'm pushing 160 on my Wrangler, so I'm going for 300, so.
See, I think you get a new one when you get that, right?
I think I'll put another motor in it. I keep on going. I may get an electric engine, convert it.
All right, I move to adjourn, so moved.
So just if I can make one last comment.
Sure.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure engaging with all of you, and I would strongly encourage you to share your thoughts on all of this work with council. It's really, in my experience, hearing your voices at the council meetings where these plans are being deliberated is really important, because you have been through all the process and understand the details in a way that most of council will not, and your voices will make a really big difference. So I think that's, if there's one insight I think that we've had from our work, hearing your voices in person will make will have an important impact on council. Whatever you want to say about it, not prejudging your thoughts, but making sure that you are present is key.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Awesome. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
We say, you know, what's most to the technology now.
Should start.
Yeah. Charging station.
Oh, I think it's great. I can see where.
Share.
I can see the county being able to collect vehicles for like everyday use. People, please